Hi, I'm Jack Prescott, and about 2 years ago, my wife Jill lit our house on fire, cackling like an insane witch as she did it, then walked out into the street, completely naked, and hid in the bushes of our neighbor's yard as the fire trucks raced to the scene. Now, if you're wondering why my wife would do such a horrible thing, it's because her stage 2 Alzheimer's, which to that point had never been diagnosed, had caused her to become completely detached from reality, to the point where she simply had no clue who she was or what she was doing. And in the days following the fire, when my wife was formally diagnosed, it seemed all but certain I would lose her to this terrible disease. But instead of giving up on my wife, the woman I'd vowed to love and protect, I got on a plane and flew nearly 9,000 miles, traveling to one of the most dangerous cities in all of India, in a desperate race against the clock to save my wife's life. Ultimately, this journey led me to the discovery of 3 ancient ingredients that have been used since the time of Jesus to fight memory loss, but that modern science is just now starting to understand. And while it still feels weird to say this next part, even the most skeptical U.S. doctors are now being forced to admit that the simple Brahmi recipe I discovered while I was overseas, which combines these 3 Indian ingredients with a few other natural herbs and nutrients, played a key role in quickly and permanently reversing my wife's cognitive decline. And it's not just my wife either, because since I first made this video and started showing folks how to combine these ingredients together in under 5 minutes and from the comfort of their own home, this memory-saving remedy has gone viral, and now is being used by more than 18,800 Americans each day, with truly incredible results. It's no exaggeration to say that once you start adding these ingredients to your daily diet, it'll be like a light switch has been turned on inside your mind. Suddenly, you will find that it's easy to recall dates, faces, and names, that your mood improves dramatically, that even the most severe cases of memory loss can be improved. I should also mention that the ingredients I'll be telling you about today are surprisingly inexpensive, 100% natural, and have 0 side effects. And in over 25 double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled studies on human patients, they have been shown to dramatically reduce forgetfulness, improve mental performance, cognition, the ability to learn, and the ability to focus, and to make you sharper and more clear-headed within minutes. That's why a growing number of health scientists, doctors, and medical experts are recommending that every American over the age of 45 add these ingredients to their diets immediately, especially if they suffer from brain fog and short-term memory problems, or if they're worried about threats like dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, I'll be sharing exactly what these ingredients are in just a few moments, but before I do, I should definitely warn you. The major pharmaceutical companies that control American medicine, especially the folks who produce dangerous and side effect-filled prescription drugs for dementia, Alzheimer's, and other forms of memory loss, absolutely hate that this video is still online. They know that if the message I'm sharing today continues to go viral, it could cost them billions of dollars in lost profits, while making it almost effortless to achieve a better, stronger memory. That's why I must urge you to watch this controversial video all the way to the end. But what you're about to discover won't just improve your brain on a cellular level, it could also save the life of yourself and the ones you love, like it did for Michael G. in Upper Michigan. He writes, "I'd always been willing to accept that memory loss would happen as I got older, but when my declining memory started threatening my independence, I grew worried. It was getting to the point where my children wanted to put me in a home, something I certainly didn't want. I felt helpless, like I was becoming a child again. After using the memory-improving ingredients you shared in your presentation, however, things have changed for the better. I'm more like my old self. I'm less forgetful. I even feel younger. As a result, my children are no longer putting pressure on me to move out of my house, and our relationship has improved dramatically. Thank you." And Greg D. in South Texas, he says, "I'm always skeptical when people talk about new breakthroughs and that sort of thing. I mean, let's be honest. The internet has a lot of junk science. But because I was desperate, I decided to give your video a watch. Boy, was that a good decision. I was immediately surprised to see how much solid science is behind these ingredients. And when I did my own research to verify what you were saying, I saw it all checked out. The greatest proof of all, however, was when I begun using these ingredients for myself. I noticed I was almost instantly sharper and more focused, and over the following month, my memory seemed to improve tenfold. Keep up the good work. Now, Michael and Greg's stories are fantastic, but they're not unusual, and I'll share a few more of those stories just a little bit later on into the presentation. Right now, though, let's go ahead and get started, so I can tell you exactly what these memory-saving ingredients are. Like I mentioned before, my name is Jack Prescott. I'm a 67-year-old retired contractor from the great state of Mississippi. I love the Lord, I love my country, and I love my wife, Jill. Jill and I have been married since we graduated high school some 45 years ago, and I couldn't imagine walking a day in this world without my dear Jill at my side, which is why I was so devastated when we learned she had Alzheimer's. And I noticed Jill was struggling to remember many of her favorite recipes. I remember watching as she tore apart the kitchen, a look of confusion in her eyes, and how when I asked what she was looking for, she responded, "I don't know," with a strange smirk on her face. Now, I didn't think much of it at the time. I thought she was just having a senior moment, as we laughingly called it. But on Thanksgiving Day, something terrible happened. Something that very quickly made it apparent that Jill was not herself, and might never be again. Here's what happened. I'd left the house at 8 a.m. that morning to hand out turkeys at our church, while Jill stayed at home to keep cooking and preparing the house for our guests. I'd been at church for about 2 hours or so when I happened to check my phone and saw that I had 5 missed calls from my neighbor Jeff, along with a text that said, "Call me now." Well, my heart started to race as I called Jeff, and when he picked up, he just started screaming that my house was on fire and that they couldn't find Jill anywhere. Well, of course, I immediately rushed home, my heart pulsing through my chest, adrenaline surging through my body. And as I pulled up to the curb in front of my burning house, all I could think of is what if Jill was still inside? I started screaming out her name in terror. "Jill, Jill, where are you?" But nothing. I couldn't tell if her car was in the garage and there was no way to get into the house. Everything was engulfed in flames. I was going out of my mind with panic and fear. This whole time I was praying to God that Jill was safe and that nothing happened to her. Then, out of nowhere, I heard one of my neighbors yell, "There she is!" And I turned and saw my wife stumbling through the crowds of people, completely naked, her knees and elbows stained with dirt. And while it was one of the most surreal moments of my life, in that moment, I didn't even feel embarrassment for her or for me or anything like that. I just felt relieved that my Jill was alive. "Where have you been?" I shouted. And then she just stared blankly at me. She stammered, her eyes turning left and right, trying to recall the next words. And then a horrified look came over her face. "I don't know," she whispered with tears in her eyes. "You don't know? What do you mean?" I said. "I can't remember, Jack. I can't remember anything." Then Jill cried in my arms for what felt like 5 hours. And that was the beginning of our Alzheimer's nightmare. But it only got worse from there. Firemen concluded the fire started in the kitchen and that the stove had been left on for hours unattended. The fire destroyed 40% of our house, totaling over $67,000 in damages. But the worst part was what happened to my wife. She was not herself. Not only did she feel guilty, ashamed, and embarrassed by the whole situation, she couldn't even remember why she left the house in the first place, or where she went, or why she'd taken her clothes off, which really made me worry. Of course, we went to see a specialist about this, but it didn't take the doctor long to diagnose Jill with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's and dementia are lifestyle diseases, he said. That means that when it comes to your brain, you've got to use it or lose it. Your wife is well into her golden years, so you shouldn't be too surprised. It happens to a lot of folks. I sat there in shock, a million thoughts racing through my mind as the doctor continued talking. "Your wife is demonstrating extreme behaviors of Alzheimer's," he was saying. "If she continues at this rate, well, let's just say we'd be lucky if the house is the only thing she burns down. I've seen it all when it comes to brain disease, and I recommend sedation and relaxation. If you keep her heavily medicated, then she can ride this out with the least amount of pain or stress. That'll be the best for the both of you. I also recommend you get started on these 3 prescriptions now. Donepezil to slow the Alzheimer's, Depakote for seizures, Razodine can cause those. And the last is Prozac for the depression. Prozac will keep her from feeling blue or getting too aggressive, which, as I'm sure you've heard, is how some older folks get with Alzheimer's. Then the doctor handed me a thick stack of prescriptions and disappeared out of the office before me or my wife could even ask him a question. It felt like we'd both been punched in the gut. But I told Jill not to worry, that we would get through this together one day at a time and find her something that could help. In the beginning, she seemed a little hopeful. But as months went on and her memory got worse and worse, I watched the hope drain straight out of my poor Jilly Bean's eyes. It wasn't just that she was forgetting or misplacing things now. She was starting to forget how to do stuff. She had trouble using the remote control. She struggled with her crossword puzzles. And one day I saw her trying to use a fork to get toast out of the oven, like she had forgotten the inherent danger of electricity. That really made me nervous. What else was Jill going to forget? Would Jill hurt herself? With her rapid mental decline, she was quickly becoming more of a danger to herself and to everyone around her. And Jill knew it too. She became withdrawn and stopped visiting her friends and going out. She even stopped coming to church, saying she didn't want anyone to pray for her anymore. All she would do was write in her journal, trying to remember and recall all her favorite memories in life, all the moments that made her feel good and that gave her happiness. She went mad with our photo albums and began pasting pictures of our kids all over the walls. She was so deathly afraid of the idea of forgetting our kids' faces, their names, or our grandbabies, that it was like watching a person go insane. I know it sounds crazy, but I couldn't help but feel like this was all my fault. Maybe if I had paid closer attention to Jill and didn't just joke about her senior moments, I could have already been helping her get better and could have avoided this terrible fate. But now I didn't know what to do. The pills she was on weren't helping her. They just made her act like a drugged-out zombie. If she wasn't journaling or scrapbooking her past, she was stuck in a trance-like daze. And then sometimes the pills made her have unhappy thoughts. Scary thoughts, she told me. She started saying things like, "I don't know how much longer I'll be around, and I won't let myself become a burden to you." Things that made me afraid that Jill was thinking of doing something terrible to herself. And if I'm being honest, I was starting to become depressed too. I'd been trying so hard to be strong for Jill, but every man has a breaking point, and I feared that I was close to mine. Which is why when I was invited to travel to India and speak at an international Bible conference that my church was sponsoring, I felt this desperate need to go. Because not only would I be able to help spread God's word overseas, but if I'm being honest, I just longed to take a break. Of course, the fact that I wanted a break from my sick wife made me hate myself some. Not to mention, I thought I would be a hypocrite in God's eyes if I left my wife to go preach to strangers, right? But after talking to our children, who said they'd be happy to stay with my wife for the 2 weeks I'd be gone, and our pastor at our church, I decided to go. What really pushed me over the edge was what my son David said. "Mom's Alzheimer's has been hard on everyone, Dad, but especially you," he told me. "And while there is no doubting that she's getting worse, this is also a slow, painful disease. You don't just get Alzheimer's and die. Some people live another 10, 20 years once they're diagnosed. So what I'm saying, Dad, is that I can see the burnout in your eyes. And in the grand scheme of things, I think you going on this trip will help refresh you. It will help you gain a renewed sense of purpose and strength, which ultimately is the best thing for Mom. So please go." And so I boarded a plane and took an 18-hour flight to the other side of the world. Now, I'd never been to India before, and I have to admit it was both impressive but also overwhelming. It's a huge place. More than 1 billion people live there. And the city where the conference was, New Delhi, had more than 18.6 million people living in it, which is more than double the size of New York City. But it also had some insane poverty and a lot of crime, too, which was scary. Fortunately, though, my church helped make it clear which parts of the city to stay away from, and almost everyone I encountered did speak English, which made it a lot easier for me as a visitor. Plus, I have to admit that while I was still feeling guilty about having left Jill, I did also feel this sense of hope and optimism as I arrived at the conference. I thought maybe God wanted me to go. Maybe this was all part of His plan, even if I didn't understand it. Now, I won't go into much detail about the conference except to say that it was really well done, And as my second week in India was coming to an end and I was getting close to the time to come home, I did feel like this weight had been lifted off my chest. And I also missed Jill so much that I almost decided to skip out on our group's final excursion we had planned so I could get a head start on packing. The trip was to one of New Delhi's most famous attractions, a place called Mughal Gardens, and ultimately I did decide to go, since I figured, heck, this was the first and probably only time in my life I'd ever be in India, and I might as well squeeze the most out of every moment, right? Well, as soon as our group got to Mughal Gardens, I knew I'd made the right choice, because it was a beautiful place, filled with hundreds of different types of flowers, a massive herb garden that has 33 medicinal and aromatic plants, a bonsai garden, a cactus garden, and more than a dozen massive, spectacular fountains. It was the kind of place you could get lost in for days, and there I was, enjoying all of this stunning beauty, when I saw something incredibly strange. I was sitting on a bench near several strange plant species that I'd never seen before when an old man crawled past me on his hands and knees, looked both ways to make sure he wasn't being watched by security, then grabbed a large handful of one of the plants and started to hurriedly crawl away. My initial reaction was one of outrage because I thought this man was trying to destroy the gardens, and so I jumped off the bench, walked directly over to him, and pulled him up by his ear. "What are you doing?" I said in a furious voice. "These plants belong in the garden, not in your hand." The old man looked at me with a most timid and embarrassed look, and then he said, "Please don't tell. It's Brahmi. It's very good for your memory. I need it." Well, that stopped me dead in my tracks. I'd never heard of Brahmi before, but the fact that this man had said it was good for memory, that was certainly unexpected. And it made me think for a moment that maybe this was a sign from God, as silly as that may sound to most folks. So I let go of the man's ear and asked him to explain in more detail. "Brahmi," he began, "in India we have used it for thousands of years for better memory. It keeps you smart. You don't forget anything. I'm getting it for myself and for my 95-year-old mother. It doesn't grow naturally where I live anymore." With that, the man ran off and I was left standing in a daze. My first thoughts were all skeptical, because I'd been researching drugs and supplements non-stop since Jill was diagnosed with her memory problems, and I'd never heard of Brahmi. So I figured it was probably just some old folk medicine that people use but has no real scientific benefits. When I got back to my hotel room that evening, though, I decided to look into Brahmi in more detail, and what I found really startled me. I found out that Brahmi is the Indian word for God, which seems like a heck of a coincidence to me. And I saw that the scientific name for Brahmi is Bacopa monnieri. It didn't take much digging for me to find out that Bacopa is used all over India and Asia to improve mental performance and brain health. So at least I knew that the man from the gardens wasn't crazy, but that still didn't mean the plant actually worked. Yet, when I started to really look into the research behind Bacopa, I was shocked by what I saw. In a major study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Research that was randomized, double-blind, and placebo-controlled, when 98 participants over the age of 55 years old started taking Bacopa monnieri regularly, the researchers found Bacopa significantly improved verbal learning, memory acquisition, and delayed recall. Meanwhile, in another recent study, this one published in the Journal of Psychiatry, that was also double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled, it was found that taking Bacopa monnieri produced significant improvements on mental control, logical memory, and paired-associated learning, leading the authors to conclude that this plant is efficacious in subjects with age-related memory impairment. And those two studies were really just the beginning. In 4 additional double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled studies with human test subjects, all of them recent and published in Tier 1 peer-reviewed scientific journals, Bacopa monnieri was found to significantly improve performance on working memory and spatial working memory accuracy, significantly improve speed of visual information processing, learning rate, and memory consolidation, show a significant effect on the retention of new information while decreasing the rate of forgetting new information, and lead to significant improvement in ability to focus, memory recall, and mental performance, while leading to a decrease in depression. Well, at this point, I had goosebumps. I mean, I'd been talking to doctors and brain experts nonstop for the last year. Yet, here was this 100% natural ingredient that I'd never heard of, and that was proven to dramatically improve memory, even in the worst case scenarios. I couldn't help but wondering if there were any other Indian plants that I'd been in the dark about. So I prayed to the Lord that whole night. And while I know it's going to sound silly to a lot of folks, the Lord spoke to me. I could feel His will in my bones, and I knew what I had to do. So after confirming with my children that they'd be able to keep looking after Jill, I canceled my flight home, then spent the next month traveling all over India and Asia, looking at every natural brain booster known to Eastern medicine, to see if any of them were legit or had real science behind them. When it came to about 95% of the herbs and extracts I uncovered in local medicine shops, there was virtually no research backing them. But what did surprise me was that for a small handful of these ancient memory remedies, the body of science supporting their effectiveness was staggering. For example, take Rhodiola rosea, which grows in the mountainous regions of Asia. I kept hearing about rhodiola everywhere in Asia and India that I traveled, and when I started digging deep into all the studies, I could hardly believe what I found. In a major review published in the journal Frontiers in Pharmacology, when researchers looked at the top 36 studies on rhodiola, which involved more than 836 test subjects, it was found that Rhodiola rosea can improve learning and memory function, and that it also reduced brain fatigue, helped protect vital neurotransmitters in the brain, and dramatically reduced the number of mental errors that subjects make. Meanwhile, in another recent study, this one published in the journal Phytotherapy Research, researchers took 80 adults with memory impairments and divided them into two groups. One group received a rhodiola supplement 2 times a day, while the other received a sugar pill. And after just 14 days, the scientists were shocked to find that the rhodiola group demonstrated a significant reduction in self-reported anxiety, stress, anger, confusion, and depression, and a significant improvement in total mood, while the placebo group saw no improvements at all. Now, I had chills as I was reading all this, because between bacopa and rhodiola, 2 obscure plants that I'd never heard of before that no doctor had ever told me or Jill about, there were over 20 double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled studies showing that they could dramatically improve mental performance. And it's not an accident that I keep talking about double-blind, randomized, and placebo-controlled studies, by the way. This is the gold standard of scientific research. It means that these studies weren't performed by some group of amateur scientists or corporate researchers. They weren't performed on mice or in a lab dish. Instead, these were studies where the ingredients were given to real human beings, where there was no room for error, and where time and time again it was found that taking these ingredients improved learning and brain performance for those who use them, while helping people to fight back against Alzheimer's, dementia, and other memory-destroying diseases. And the more I kept digging, the more I uncovered. For example, I found out how a drought-resistant bean that grows in the Indian desert called the moth bean was loaded with a special nutrient called phosphatidylserine that protects your brain on a cellular level and helps to prevent memory loss. In fact, in a 2010 study that was randomized, double-blind, and placebo-controlled, a group of 78 elderly people with mild cognitive impairment were either given a phosphatidylserine supplement or a placebo for 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, researchers were shocked to see something strange. The worse an individual's memory was before they started using phosphatidylserine, the more it improved after taking this nutrient, leading the researchers to declare that phosphatidylserine could be a new breakthrough in the fight against dementia and Alzheimer's. And in another recent study, this one published in the prestigious journal Nutrition, it was found that phosphatidylserine is absorbed efficiently in humans and safely slows, halts, or reverses biochemical alteration, which is a fancy way of saying that it can stop or even turn back the clock on cognitive decline. In fact, the scientists who conducted this review on phosphatidylserine were so impressed by what they saw that they put things in shockingly blunt terms, saying that phosphatidylserine supports human cognitive functions, including the formation of short-term memory, the consolidation of long-term memory, the ability to create new memories, the ability to retrieve memories, the ability to learn and recall information, the ability to focus attention and concentrate, the ability to reason and solve problems, language skills, and the ability to communicate. Now, I know that's a long quote, but again, how amazing is that? Here you've got some of the best scientists in the world, writing in probably the most prestigious scientific journal in the world, and they're telling you that this nutrient that's found in a strange bean in India can do all of that for our memories and our brains. It's pretty shocking. But after reviewing all of the research, it seemed like there were a whole host of natural, memory-improving ingredients out there. Ingredients that were proven by science and rigorous studies, and that seemed to have massive potential when it came to fighting brain decline, while improving mental performance. I didn't know why folks in the U.S. weren't being given this information, especially since in places like India, where they are common, the Alzheimer's and dementia rates are lower than almost anywhere else in the entire world. That couldn't just be a coincidence, could it? Well, at this point, I couldn't even contain my excitement, and I knew that the clock was ticking and that I needed to share my discoveries with Jill as fast as possible. So I returned to the United States with plentiful samples of Bacopa monnieri, Rhodiola rosea, and phosphatidylserine in hand, and I also brought home 3 additional memory-improving ingredients that I'd uncovered during my travels, and that I'll share with you in just a moment from now. Then I hired a team of chemistry professors from the nearby university to help me combine all 6 of the ingredients together and turn them into a single, easy-to-swallow capsule. The process took much longer than expected, because it's not that easy to get so many powerful ingredients into a single pill, and I was going broke doing all of this between the travel and hiring these scientists. But after 2 months of trial and error, I was finally ready to give my creation to Jill. I decided that in order to test the effectiveness of mixture, we would do a memory test every morning. 1, what day is it? 2, what town are we in? 3, what is the name of our firstborn? 4, where did I just travel to? If Jill can answer any of these questions correctly, then I would know that her memory was improving, and the ingredients I'd brought back home were working. Well, for the first 3 days, we didn't see any real improvement. Jill was still struggling to remember what day it was, or even the fact that I had been away in India, which was discouraging to say the least. I started thinking maybe I'd been stupid for believing that some herbs and plants could help my wife, no matter what the research said about them. And I even thought about just stopping Jill's herbal treatment right then and there, rather than continuing to put us through this emotional roller coaster any longer. But when I looked into Jill's eyes, I saw the woman I love more than anything else in this world, a woman who needed my help, and so I pushed forward and kept giving Jill her herbal formula, and thank God for that, because on the 5th day of taking her Indian potion, Jill shocked me by being able to quickly and easily tell me what day of the week it was. I know that might sound like a little thing, but it was definitely an improvement from where her memory had been. And I was even more shocked when 3 days after that, Jill was able to answer all 4 questions I asked her without any struggle at all. In the days that followed, Jill continued to be able to answer all 4 questions in our little test with no problems whatsoever. And so I started adding new questions each day, like if she remembered where we met, what the date of our anniversary was, and where we celebrated Christmas Eve in 1996. Astoundingly, Jill was able to recall all of these events in perfect clarity. Not only did she remember recent things like the fire at our house and what she'd had for dinner 2 Wednesdays ago, but older events too, like the fact that we spent Christmas of 1996 at her sister's ranch in Oklahoma. It was truly remarkable. It really seemed like not only was Jill's memory coming back, but it was actually becoming stronger than ever. And it wasn't just her memory either. It was like her entire personality had been restored. Instead of walking around depressed and sedated, she was vibrant, cheerful, and excited for life. And as the months continued to pass by, Jill only became more and more like her old self. Well, as you'd imagine, word started spreading pretty fast about Jill, and soon it wasn't just my friends and family asking for some of my memory pills. I was getting phone calls, emails, and letters from complete strangers who were hearing about what I'd created and who wanted to try this for themselves. So I started manufacturing as many of the capsules as I could and sending them to people all across the country. And before long, the stories were pouring in. Grandparents who suffered from dementia were using my discovery to regain their memories. Elderly folks with brain fog were taking them regularly and saying it was as if they felt like themselves again for the first time in years. Heck, even young adults were taking them to get better grades in their college courses or to get ahead in their jobs, which at first I was a little nervous about. But I decided it was okay since the ingredients were all natural and didn't have any major side effects. The success stories people were sending me were overwhelming, and it was at this point that I knew I needed to find a way to get the 6 ingredients I'd discovered to as many people as possible. At first I thought about partnering with one of the drug companies, but pretty much every honest scientist I talked to warned me that was a terrible idea, because any of the big drug companies would just want to buy my formula, patent it, and then lock it away forever. It made me sad to think this might be true, but in my heart I knew it probably was, because it did seem mighty suspicious that for all the billions of dollars spent, the drug companies haven't made a single breakthrough when it comes to memory loss in the last 30 years. It made me realize that the drug companies care more about money than they do helping people, and that giving them my formula would be the worst mistake of my life. So without many other options, I decided to solidify my partnership with the scientists, chemists, and researchers I'd hired to help make this memory pill in the first place, so that we could get this formulation out to as many folks as humanly possible. We decided to call our formulation Cogni360 because it gives you complete, total brain support from the very first pill. Inside Cogni360, you'll find the 3 powerful ingredients I already told you about: Bacopa monnieri, Rhodiola rosea, and phosphatidylserine, plus 3 additional ingredients that I found during my travels, and that are proven in dozens of studies to help strengthen the brain and protect memory. These ingredients include DMAE, a little-known compound in fish that's been shown to help address a variety of cognitive problems, including ADHD, memory losses, and Alzheimer's. A rare form of ginkgo biloba, which in a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study of 202 Alzheimer's patients was shown to improve mental abilities, social functioning, and to delay progression of the disease. And a unique version of vitamin B12 that comes from the Indian sunflower, and that a recent study published in the journal Alzheimer's and Dementia found to help improve both short and long-term memory. When you add it all up, you won't find a more powerful or purer brain-supporting formula on the planet. And at this point, you're probably asking how you can get your hands on Cogni360 for yourself, along with how often you need to take it for best results. To be blunt, it's actually still very tough for the general public to get Cogni360. The memory-boosting ingredients inside need to be shipped fresh from the other side of the world, which can take months, and then blending them down into a single capsule adds another month at least to the production time. Additionally, because Cogni360 improves memory at such an effective rate, pretty much everyone who uses it keeps on asking for more of the stuff, because they never again want to suffer from brain fog, mental lapses, or feeling slow and sluggish. On top of that, Cogni360 is also becoming extremely popular in retirement homes, assisted living facilities, and doctor offices, which is putting even more of a strain on production, especially since it takes up to 3 months to custom make each batch. Plus, because many of these ingredients don't just help with memory, they've also been shown to reduce depression and anxiety, to lower blood pressure and high cholesterol, and to improve heart health. Even people who aren't worried about memory loss have been ordering Cogni360 so that they can protect themselves. And as a result of the fact that Cogni360 is expensive to manufacture, takes up to 3 months to produce a single batch, and keeps selling out, I frequently don't have any Cogni360 available for folks. But that being said, I don't want anyone to suffer from the scary, embarrassing, and independence-threatening effects of a poor memory. Which is why in the next few moments, I'll show you how you can get your hands on a brand new bottle of Cogni360 as part of me and Jill's new Save My Brain program. Okay, back to the other question of how much Cogni360 you need to take. That's simple. Just take 1 capsule each day for at least 30 days. Now, the reason it's important to take Cogni360 for at least 30 days is pretty straightforward. While the memory-boosting ingredients inside Cogni360 go to work pretty much instantly, it's also likely that over the last few decades your brain has been under constant attack. Whether it's cell death, less blood flow, or fewer new neurons being built, brain decline is something that happens to all of us as we age, which means even after Cogni360 has started to improve your short-term focus, concentration, and memory, you'll still want to work on repairing your brain on a cellular level so that your memory becomes truly flawless. That's why most medical experts recommend that you choose at least 3 bottles of Cogni360, and 6 bottles if you want to be completely covered. Then take it for a period of 90 days or even longer. That way, you can absolutely guarantee that your brain functions at the highest level possible. Plus, as more than 18,800 Americans can now attest to, you'll also get all of the side benefits like lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, a healthier heart, and better circulation. That's exactly what happened to Tim C., who lives in Georgia. He writes, "The difference I've been seeing since taking Cogni360 is astounding. It's like I'm operating on a whole different level. I found that I can do calculations faster, that I read faster, and that I see the whole world differently. At first, it was hard for me to believe that something natural could be this powerful, but now I'm convinced. I've experienced the benefits of Cogni360 firsthand, and I never want to be without it again." And Mary R., who lives in Florida, she says, "Memory loss is something no one should have to struggle with. Yet when my mom started to become confused and forget where she was on a regular basis, I thought maybe it was our new reality. Not knowing where else to turn, I decided to try Cogni360. The changes in my mom have been marked. She no longer acts confused, and she's back to being her old self. The grandkids are so excited as well because it feels like they have Grandma back." The real-life testimonials you just heard are only a few of the thousands me and Jill are receiving each month about Cogni360. And you should know that Cogni360 is only available on this website, while there are supplies in stock and I'm able to stay in business. The truth is, we're currently facing numerous legal threats from pharmaceutical companies who hate what we're doing. They are disgusted that we're sharing a natural but proven memory-boosting formula with everyday folks, but not charging them thousands of dollars. And they're determined to silence me and my wife before we put them out of business. We're fighting hard to not let our voices be censored, but I don't want you to wait on taking action and reclaiming your memory with Cogni360. Cogni360 is your best chance to naturally improve memory, learning, and mental performance. And it's something that can protect your brain for decades to come, so that you slide into your golden years of life gracefully and fully present, retain your independence, and can remember and cherish all of your blessings in life. Think about how good it will feel to no longer worry about forgetting routine pieces of information, how good it will feel to be sharper than people half your age, to feel like you have your life back. All it takes is one powerful brain-boosting capsule per day, and your memory issues could be gone forever. Now, of course, that's not to say there aren't other options. For example, you could try different oral medications if your memory is really bad. But besides the fact that they are riddled with side effects and cause liver damage, heart failure, fever, and in some cases even lead to faster rates of memory loss, they'll also cost you more than $4,500 per year. And they don't even attack the root cause of poor memory. And it's the same with most brain supplements as well. Most of them either contain dangerous synthetic chemicals that aren't tested, or they have weak ingredients that haven't been proven to work. So why would you spend $500 per year or more on things like fish oil when they're lacking evidence? And when, just like medications, those supplements don't address the root cause of your poor memory. Neither of these options is any good at all, which is why I originally set the investment for Cogni360 at $149 per bottle, which honestly I think is very fair. It's less than you'll pay for doctor visits, prescription meds, or unproven health supplements over the course of the year. Yet, unlike those other options, the ingredients inside Cogni360 are proven in dozens of Tier 1 studies to truly improve your memory. Plus, considering that there are very few manufacturers in the world who have the ability to produce Cogni360, and that each capsule contains the purest and best forms of these 6 brain-boosting ingredients available. $149 is a steal. Yet, despite all of that, This certainly isn't about making a bunch of money. I mean, of course, we could use the cash to pay for our legal bills, which get higher each day as another pharmaceutical company decides to get in on the legal frenzy and threaten to sue us. But ultimately, our mission is to help people. Me and my wife have seen just how humiliating cognitive decline can be, how scary it can be to have your memories begin to fade, as you lose your sense of self and even forget who you are. And we don't believe this is something that anyone should need to suffer through. That's why we're offering this memory-improving breakthrough to the public for the first time through our special Save My Brain program. And why, if you act right now and make the life-changing decision to join the 18,800 men and women before you, you can get your hands on Cogni360 for just $69 per bottle. Plus, that's actually just the start. We understand that reclaiming mental performance isn't just important to you, it's also important to your family and loved ones. And because we want to make sure that you and those you care about continue to enjoy a high-functioning brain, that you can learn new information and retain it, that you never feel confused or disoriented, we've created a special discounted package plan where you can get 6 bottles of Cogni360 for only $49 per bottle, a total of $294. This special discounted package is only being offered to you today through this website as part of our Save My Brain program, and only while supplies last. Plus, you'll also get free shipping today, which is a $9.99 value. But both the special multi-bottle discount and the free shipping are limited. When we run out of bottles of Cogni360 again, it will take up to 3 months before another batch is available. So click the button below this video right now and choose the 6-bottle package or any other package you want to secure your order. This is truly one of the smallest but most important investments that you'll ever make in your health and well-being. A single bottle of Cogni360 will have you feeling more alert, focused, and clear-headed than you have in years. 3 bottles will do the same thing while ensuring that your memory becomes sturdier than oak. And 6 bottles of Cogni360 will be like putting a shield around your brain while refreshing the neurons and synapses inside so that your brain is literally becoming younger and faster. So at this point, you're probably thinking, this sounds really exciting. And you're asking, how do I get started? Just click the button below right now and choose the package of Cogni360 that's best for you. You'll then go to the secure checkout page where you'll enter your order details. And within just 5 business days from now, you'll receive Cogni360 right to your front door. So go ahead and click the button below now to secure Cogni360 while there are still bottles in stock. This should be an incredibly easy decision for you because you're also covered by a 180-day, 100% money-back guarantee. It works like this. Begin using Cogni360 now. Notice how sharper and more focused you feel, how the brain fog rapidly lifts from around you, how you're once again feeling like your old self, all within a few short days. And if for any reason you're not happy with your results using Cogni360, simply email or call our award-winning customer service team 24/7, and we will give you a prompt and immediate refund with 0 questions asked. You have nothing to lose here, except poor memory and the declining brain, and it's a 100% risk-free investment. So go ahead and click the button you see below now to get started with reclaiming your memory forever. This presentation is now ending, and the ultimate decision is yours. One of your choices is to stop watching this video and go on with your day. That's your right. But what will change if you make that choice? How are you going to feel in a month, 6 months, or a year from now if you don't take action today and you're still suffering from a weak memory? Or God forbid, what if your memory keeps on deteriorating to the point where you start losing your independence and where the ones you love start thinking of you as a drag, someone to look after rather than love? I'm not trying to be harsh here. I'm truly not. I'm telling you this because most people wait too long to act, and I don't want you to become a victim here. When you can make a simple and risk-free choice right now to protect your memory and your independence for years to come. That choice is to click the button you see below this video right now and get Cogni360 for yourself today for as low as $49 per bottle. When you do that, you'll be getting free shipping and the 180-day, 100% money-back guarantee. But when supplies of Cogni360 run out, though, it could be 3 months until we get more in. When the Save My Brain program ends, the price goes back up to $149 per bottle, so that we can at least break even instead of losing money with each bottle we sell, which is happening now. All of which means you really must act now. Our mission is to make memory loss a thing of the past by wiping it out of existence forever. You can play a large part in achieving this worthy goal by participating in the Save My Brain program today and receiving your order of Cogni360 to your front door in just a few short days from now. Ultimately, it's your decision, but this is your last chance. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless you. Sincerely, Jack Prescott, Cogni360. Hey, are you still here? No problem. I know that was a lot to take in, and maybe there's something on your mind still. So to help you out, let me go ahead and answer some of the most common questions folks ask me and Jill. That way you can make your investment in Cogni360 today with total confidence. 1. Who is Cogni360 for? Cogni360 is a highly optimized memory support formula that uses the power of Bacopa monieri, along with 5 other natural ingredients, to fight brain inflammation, oxidative stress, and protein plaque buildup. But it's not just people who are suffering from a severe brain disease who can benefit from Cogni360. This breakthrough is for anyone suffering from any memory or cognitive issues, people who need more energy and better focus, or anyone who wants to live the most productive, happy life they possibly can. 2. What makes Cogni360 different from all those other memory supplements I see advertised? Cogni360 is made with 6 essential ingredients that infuse your brain with beneficial amino acids, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatories that defend and support your brain. These 6 ingredients are non-synthetic, which means they aren't made with fillers and harmful chemicals that are found in prescription drugs. Additionally, Cogni360 is manufactured in a GMP-certified facility that follows all FDA guidelines, and each batch is independently tested by a third-party laboratory, which ensures that what you see on the label is what you get inside each bottle. 3. How long will this offer be available for? That's a good question, but the answer is complicated. For one thing, because the costs to source our all-natural ingredients are quite high, we only have limited amounts of discounted supply in stock. Remember, normally Cogni360 is $149 a bottle, but through this webpage you can get it for just $69 per bottle while supplies last, and just $49 when you stock up today. Besides supplies being limited, however, there's also the threat that Big Pharma's multi-million-dollar lawyers will shut us down. We'll certainly fight them for as long as we can, but given that Cogni360 can help fight severe memory loss, not just mask the symptoms, both the brain supplement industry and Big Pharma are desperate to get this presentation removed from the internet fast. 4. What can you tell me about the guarantee again? As I mentioned, it's a full 6-month, 100% money-back guarantee. This means if you change your mind about your investment for any reason in the next 180 days, just call or email our award-winning U.S.-based customer service team, and we'll immediately refund your investment with 0 questions asked. In other words, there's no risk whatsoever. 5. Okay, I'm ready to order. What do I need to do? Simply click the button at the bottom of this presentation. You'll then go to our secure order page where you'll enter your shipping details. Then, in 3 to 5 business days, Cogni360 will be at your front door. Shipping and handling are 100% free, which is a $12.99 savings. But remember, there are only limited supplies of Cogni360 available at any given time, which means if you put this off, it could be months until you have another chance to experience Cogni360 for yourself. So go ahead and order Cogni360 now at this huge savings. And we look forward to hearing about your experience with this premium memory support supplement.